All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Commissioner Todd, you want to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. All right, right hand over your heart and ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please.
Chair Cameron Carrizales,
Present.
Vice Chair Aaron Todd,
Here.
Commissioner Ashley Connolly,
Present.
Commissioner Derek Farage,
Here.
Commissioner Alex Flores.
Present.
All right, we'll move on to item 4, consent calendar. Approval of minutes from our October 22nd, 2025 Planning Commission regular meeting. Do we have any comments or corrections needed? Have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 5, oral communications, opportunity for the citizens' presentation or comments not related to the agenda items, but within the responsibility of the Fillmore Planning Commission. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. We do not have any speaker cards this morning. So we'll move on, or evening, I should say. Move on to item 6, presentation. 6A, Santa Paula Branch Line Trail presentation from Amanda Fagan, Ventura County Transportation Commission.
Good evening, Chair Carrizales and members of the Planning Commission. For the record, my name is Amanda Fagan, and I serve as the Director of Planning and Sustainability for the Ventura County Transportation Commission. I greatly appreciate the invitation to come talk with you this evening about an ongoing project that we have been working on at VCTC very actively over the past several years. But really that goes back 3 decades to when VCTC originally acquired the Santa Paula Branch Line Railroad. So just by way of background, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, or VCTC, is the regional transportation planning agency that serves Ventura County. We're responsible for planning and programming, which means funding transportation projects, services, and programs countywide. So the project that I'm here tonight to focus on is the Santa Paula Branch Line Trail Master Plan update. For this evening's presentation, I'll give you just an overview of the history of the Santa Paula Branch Line Railroad, an introduction to the Trail Master Plan update and an environmental review. I'll talk about a little bit about alternatives development and trail compatibility, the environmental impact report process, and community engagement. And I hope you'll forgive me for relying on my notes a little bit, mostly so that I don't ramble and keep you here all night. So the Santa Paula Branch Line Railroad is an important piece of our county's history. It was established in the 1880s by Southern Pacific Railway to serve the expanding agricultural industry and the communities of the Santa Clara River Valley, with packing houses and other ag-related businesses served by the railroad. If memory serves, the city of Fillmore is actually named for the first superintendent of the railroad. So there's a lot of connections between our Heritage Valley communities and the Santa Paula Branch Line. When VCTC acquired the Santa Paula Branch Line 3 decades ago for use as a multimodal corridor, the plans included a bicycle and hiking trail among the stated purposes. In 1996, VCTC adopted the Santa Paula Branch Line Master Plan, which included design guidelines and plans for a trail. Then in 2000, when VCTC adopted in 2000, VCTC adopted a master plan and environmental impact report for the Santa Paula Branch Line Recreational Multi-Use Trail. The plan provides design guidelines, preliminary engineering, and a preferred alignment for the trail. VCTC purchased the Santa Paula Branch Line and the Ventura Branch Line from Southern Pacific Railway in 1995 for $8.5 million. The Ventura branch has since become the popular Ojai to Ventura bike trail. The 32-mile Santa Paula Branch Line Railroad and right-of-way was acquired for use as a multimodal corridor that includes freight and passenger rail, television and film production, a bicycle and pedestrian trail, and preservation of the corridor for possible future commuter rail service. In 2001, VCTC entered into a 20-year operating lease with Fillmore and Western Railway for the operational right-of-way, which expired in June of 2021. After a competitive selection process, VCTC executed a railroad lease and operations agreement with Sierra Northern Railway in December of 2021. With increased public interest in active transportation opportunities, in April of 2022, the Commission adopted a goal to reinvigorate the process to complete the Santa Paula Branch Line Bike Trail. And in 2023, the Commission adopted a strategic plan that includes an update to the Trail Master Plan to validate trail alignment, connections, and amenities, and to update existing conditions to facilitate trail completion with stakeholder engagement. Since January of 2022, Sierra Northern Railway has been responsible for operating and maintaining the railroad and associated right-of-way under a railroad lease and operations agreement. Sierra Northern operates and maintains the railroad tracks and right-of-way and provides freight and film rail services. Tourist and excursion services are provided through the cooperation of sister company Mendocino Railway. The agreement fosters a shared purpose to invest in the Santa Paula Branch Line and the surrounding communities. I will often use the term right-of-way when talking about the branch line. In this context, right-of-way refers to a linear corridor used for transportation infrastructure such as roads, railroads, and trails. The VCTC-owned right-of-way consists of 99 parcels, typically 100 feet wide, extending 32 miles from Ventura through Piru. The width of the right-of-way does vary in certain spots, including here in downtown Fillmore. In 2024, VCTC applied for and received a Surface Transportation Block Grant and also a Regional Early Action Planning Grant from the Southern California Association of Governments to update the Trail Master Plan from Saticoy to Piru. Then following a competitive procurement process, our commission approved a contract with WSP in March of 2025 to prepare an update to the Trail Master Plan and environmental documents. I share this timeline and the details to convey that we're still on the front end of the Trail Master Plan update, with many opportunities, including this evening's presentation, to provide input into the planning process. So this effort will update the Santa Paula Branch Line Trail Master Plan, originally adopted in 2000, and prepare a new environmental document. This is a Rails with Trails project, where a multi-use path is planned to run primarily along the railroad tracks with continued active rail operations. The photo on the slide illustrates an example of what the trail might look like and is for discussion purposes only, and doesn't represent the final design of the trail. But at least it gives you a sense of what might be envisioned. The Trail Master Plan update presents an opportunity to invest in active transportation connections to housing, transit, education, and job centers throughout the Santa Clara River Valley, to provide abundant opportunities for educational, interpretive, and scenic connections, and to reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions while addressing agricultural compatibility concerns. The project objectives shown on this slide can come directly from the original master plan, and I believe they're still valid. At the same time, we have the opportunity to update or amend the objectives as needed through this master planning process. This map depicts the various planning areas for the Santa Paula Branch Line corridor. The branch line begins at the East Ventura Montalvo Metrolink station and continues for approximately 32 miles through Santa Paula, Fillmore, and Piru. The existing completed trail segments are shown in blue, The area shown in yellow is the 4-mile Ventura segment, and the areas shown in orange are the Santa Paula extension segments. The red sections are the focus of the Trail Master Plan update, the approximately 27 miles from the Saticoy Depot through to the end of the corridor, which extends about 3 miles past the end of the existing railroad tracks in Piru. Areas that connect existing trail segments and the Heritage Valley communities with one another and eventually create connections to the coast. To date, 3 trail segments have been constructed in the cities of Santa Paula and Fillmore and in the unincorporated Piru community. These photos demonstrate some of the trail amenities and treatments that have been used to date for the existing sections. In 2005 and 2007, Santa Paula Branch Line Trail Phases 1 and 2 were opened in Piru about 0.3 miles. In 2007, the segment opened here in Fillmore. It's about 1.3 miles. And in 2012, the trail segment opened in Santa Paula for 2.2 miles. As I mentioned, there's a 4-mile segment in Ventura that is advancing through the final design and construction through a separate effort led by the city of Ventura. So that part is not included as part of this Trail Master Plan update. To complete the trail, we do face a number of challenges related to constraints on the right-of-way, bridges, and crossings, and addressing concerns related to compatibility with adjacent agricultural activities. As I like to say, if this project were easy, it would be done by now. At the same time, we have many opportunities to build on existing studies, connect to existing and planned trails, and to incorporate historic and educational elements into the trail design and implementation. The timeline to update the Trail Master Plan began in earnest in May of this year with an assessment of the existing conditions and continued in July with conceptual planning. Drafting of the master plan began in September and continues through the end of this year, along with defining the project for purposes of the environmental document. The consultant team will then undertake technical studies beginning in January and continuing through the winter. And the environmental impact report will be drafted beginning in February. We anticipate completing the EIR about a year from now, with continuing opportunities for community engagement provided throughout the project. A primary focus of this Trail Master Plan update is to explore and incorporate trail compatibility considerations and features. VCTC has long been aware of concerns from agricultural interests regarding use of the branch line corridor for a trail. Some of the concerns expressed by agricultural landowners and interests have included vandalism, litter, liability, trespass, potential loss of ag operator ability to cross the corridor, and the potential loss of existing farmland to buffers between recreational and agricultural uses. The original master plan and EIR include design features and mitigations to address these concerns. However, in response to agricultural concerns, a 15-year agreement between VCTC, the county, and property owners adjacent to the branch line prevented trail construction from 2000 to 2015 in the agricultural areas of the unincorporated county. With expiration of the trail construction moratorium in 2015, the Commission sought to address agricultural concerns through a trail compatibility survey. The survey includes case studies and lessons learned from other trail projects located within open space and commercial agricultural areas, and includes recommendations for trail and buffer design and trail management policies and strategies to balance the needs of all stakeholders. Some of the strategies include indemnification of farmers against liability for trail use, beyond existing California statutes that provide such protections, appropriate fencing to delineate the trail in agricultural areas, policies and agreements that allow trail closure as needed for agricultural operations such as spraying, controlled crossings for farm equipment, and maintenance and operations policies and practices to maintain the trail and address concerns, just to name a few. More recent engagement with agricultural stakeholders has helped us to better understand how the findings of the 2015 compatibility survey apply now in 2025 and what new considerations have arisen. The feedback is being incorporated into the master plan and the draft EIR technical studies and mitigation options. We continue to engage with agricultural stakeholders throughout the process. So one of the models for agricultural compatibility that we are exploring is called AgRespect. And it's a series of principles and an educational program that was created to address trespass and other property concerns along the Napa Vine Trail in the Napa Valley. The program is available for licensing and use around California and could be applied or adapted here in the Heritage Valley for the Santa Paula Branch Line Trail. So I wanted to take a few minutes now to talk about some of the trail alignment options that are being considered and evaluated as part of the master plan and environmental impact report here closer to Fillmore. While this is a 27-mile corridor, give or take, that's being evaluated, I'm focusing here just on the nearest ones here in Fillmore. The original trail master plan included a deviation from the railroad corridor, and it's shown here in red. It would go along Sycamore Road down to 7th and then reconnect with the trail. So we have alternatives as part of the EIR consideration that are evaluating both options. One option would be to stay principally within the railroad right-of-way, and the other would be to look at this, or to follow the 2000 master plan alignment there along Sycamore Road. We are looking at leaving the railroad right-of-way to cross the Susby Creek and following Old Telegraph Road. We believe that there is sufficient width there to restripe and add a protected bike lane across the river on Old Telegraph Road, and then reconnect with the existing trail segment that begins there at Goodenough Road in the city of Fillmore. That would be a significant cost savings compared to adding a new bridge within the railroad corridor, or adding a sort of cantilevered addition to the existing railroad bridge. And so both the original 2000 master plan and our thinking going forward is looking at using Old Telegraph Road. And then we've had some really wonderful, productive discussions with this city staff to talk about some ways that we can leverage existing trails here in the city of Fillmore to both connect the trail segments across Fillmore, but also to create a really lovely trail network around the city of Fillmore by filling in a number of relatively small gaps in the existing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure here in the city, taking advantage of a lot of the really great planning work that's already been done here in the city, and building additional segments out to create that connection across and through the city. So those alignment options are shown in pink on this map. We are looking at a possible bridge over the State Route 126 that would help to connect across the railroad right-of-way. But we're also looking at some other alternatives for carrying the pedestrians and bicyclists across the 126 and connecting with the city's infrastructure. So we are pursuing a programmatic environmental impact report that looks at the whole master plan, and we're really in the early stages of that environmental impact report process. A programmatic EIR evaluates potential environmental impacts of a plan, program, or series of actions that can be characterized as one large project. It informs decision makers about the environmental impacts of an entire plan rather than one smaller project within a plan. A programmatic EIR can accelerate environmental review of later activities by offering lead agencies the flexibility to consider alternatives and mitigation measures, to streamline approval of future projects and support implementation of capital improvements, and consider a broad policy alternative and mitigation earlier when there's more flexibility to address those concerns. The environmental analysis process begins with a project description and public scoping, then technical studies, preparation of a draft EIR, public review and hearings, and a final EIR. We are currently at the public scoping phase. A wide range of factors will be analyzed in the EIR, including agricultural, biological, and cultural resources, transportation, wildfire, and many others. So we are not limiting the scope of factors being analyzed in this EIR like some projects would. We are considering the full range of potential impacts. The master plan update and environmental review provides many opportunities for the public to engage in the planning process. Community engagement conducted thus far includes the formation of a technical and community advisory committees that are made up of a wide range of agency and stakeholder groups. Our team has also conducted 4 pop-ups at community events, including one here in Fillmore over the summer, and more will be conducted in the coming months. We've held one-on-one and small group listening sessions with many stakeholders, about 20 to date, and we're grateful for the time and insights provided by all of our project stakeholders who have participated thus far, and we look forward to hearing from more stakeholders throughout the process. We've also created a number of online engagement opportunities, including an interactive pin map, a website, social media, radio, newspaper, and canvassing. We will continue to collect feedback from the community through a variety of engagement opportunities. Just last week, on December 11th, we hosted the third of 3 planned community workshops and a public scoping meeting at the Collector Car Vault in Santa Paula. The scoping period does close this Sunday, December 21st, but we will continue to take feedback and comments from the public and stakeholders throughout the development of the master plan and environmental impact report. This slide shows the website that is available, and it's available from our VCTC's website. And you can also submit comments by email to spbl.trail@goventura.org. We would absolutely welcome and appreciate any additional engagement and feedback that you have for us as we move forward through this process. So again, thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Fagan. Any commissioners have any questions? Comments?
I just had a couple things. On one of your slides, it gave like the full list or comprehensive list on things that are being considered in the EIR. One of the things, transportation, I don't know if the crossings of the 126 are going to be part of that, because that's a major thing, not just for safety of people crossing on bikes and foot, but also the traffic on the 126, as probably all of us know, trying to get home at night right now is a pain. So is that going to be part of that transportation? Is there going to be like a study on traffic?
Yes, so transportation is absolutely going to be evaluated as part of the EIR, but it's also an important piece of the design process in general. We are looking at ways to try to minimize crossings of the 126 as much as possible, taking advantage of existing under or over crossings where they exist. And that's a key reason for the Sycamore crossing, there's an existing undercrossing, for example, that is included in the original master plan, so we're looking at that. I believe there are 3 crossings of the 126 that may require a bridge or some other way to help folks get safely across the 126, and of course, we would be also working to minimize impacts to traffic on the 126. I'll also mention sort of a preview of something else we're working on with the city and Caltrans and other partners related to the 126. Our commission authorized and we submitted a grant application to Caltrans for a sustainable transportation planning grant just last month. That would do a multimodal corridor study and safety plan for State Route 126 for the Ventura County portion. And so we haven't heard yet whether we will receive that grant, but it was submitted last month, and we're hopeful that we would be able to do additional work looking at the 126 as a whole, as a system, rather than just focusing on individual areas of concern. So we're hopeful that that will be forthcoming in the next year. It probably would be a year out just based on the grant timelines and contracting with Caltrans, but we're hopeful that that's something we'll be doing next year.
Thank you. And then also lighting, I didn't see anything regarding lighting on that list. I mean, if it's going back on Sycamore,
Just going to the list, or maybe I passed it.
Yeah, it's right here.
There we go.
Again, if we're going back behind, talking about, lighting for safety, but also are we going to be considering light pollution for the homes in the back? That one of the reasons they want to live back there is get away from the light pollution. Is that all going to be considered?
Yes, absolutely. I think lighting would fit into a couple of these different categories. So these factors are contained in the CEQA guidelines, but lighting would fit into several different categories. Biological resources, looking at impacts of lighting on wildlife. It would be incorporated into agriculture and forestry resources, any impacts of lighting to agriculture, aesthetics, land use, all the different, it could fit into several different categories. So we have received comments from others about concerns about lighting, so it's definitely going to be included. Many of the other projects, like for example, the Ventura segment, they're using downward directed shielded lighting that focuses the light on the trail, and that minimizes any spill or impacts to the surrounding community. So I would anticipate something like that here as well. But lighting is absolutely part of the calculus.
And then my last question, you said that VCTC received a block grant. Is there a term on that where you guys are having to potentially get this done a lot sooner, or is it kind of a open-ended block grant?
So we do have a grant timeline. The project is currently scheduled to be completed by the end of next year. I believe we do have a little bit extra time until the grant expires. It was originally under a much tighter timeframe grant, but because of the different ways that transportation projects get funded, it ended up primarily with the block grant. So I believe we have until the middle of 2027 to complete the work and submit everything. So we are on a little bit of a quicker timeline just based on the grant resources, but we should have time to finish the project.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question. So you said it's multimodal, and so it's just, right now it's pedestrian and bikes, but no horse trail, right?
We are not currently contemplating the equestrian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, I just want to say this was an awesome presentation, and I'm
you.
really excited about this.
Thank you.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure it's very obvious, but it's really hot here, and I think that shade has to be a very big concern for this trail, because then people will actually want to use it. A lot of the trails maybe that exist now, for me at least, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna get so sunburned there. But, yeah, I would think that that's something you're already talking about, but.
I would anticipate shade would be incorporated into the trail amenities and design, but I'll say the segment in Fillmore is really a lovely example of existing shade over the trail. It's funny how often I see that the Fillmore Trail segment used in slide decks of trails around the region and the state, not just here locally. So it's really something something special and I see it get used here in Fillmore as well. So shade is absolutely an important feature.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. The first one would be, if, I know where Pole Creek and the 126 are, there's actually a tunnel. Maybe that can be considered to try to minimize a bridge over the 126. As far as like wildlife goes, if a bridge goes up, for something like this, is there a plan in place to help kind of divert the wildlife as well? Just in case everyone decides they want to share a bridge. So I have two questions. That's the first one.
We have talked about Pole Creek and the undercrossing there. There is an existing little kind of mini trail under the bridge, which I initially thought I was a little skeptical. But over Thanksgiving break, I was in Rome with my family on vacation, and they have the most amazing bike trail that is right at the water surface level at the bottom of their, the Arno River, and it's very similar to what you have here in Pole Creek. So I think you might be onto something there, something definitely worth exploring further. We'd have to figure out how to get people in and out of that area because it is very steep. So I think there would be some, potentially significant improvements that would need to be made to make sure folks are safe when using the trail, because that is a pretty flashy river or creek there. But also related to wildlife. So we are looking at the county's wildlife-friendly fencing and other wildlife-related ordinances as a guide to help us kind of figure out how we address the wildlife concerns here through the valley. So that would be part of the technical studies that are underway as part of the EIR.
Okay, perfect. And then the second, well, I guess I have two more. The second question would be, with Fillmore getting a lot of sun, spring, summer, fall, winter, I know that there's certain colors or paints that can go down that helps keep that area cool. Is that part of the discussion for this?
It hasn't yet been a part of this discussion, but I will definitely bring that back to our team. It's something we've looked at the commission as part of our long-range planning, and we've brought in speakers from Los Angeles who have active cool pavement and other treatments. So that's a great idea, and I will definitely share that with our team. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And then the last question is, on your one slide, it shows kind of like two scenarios. If you're coming in from like Santa Paula, it breaks you to the north or to the south. I think that's a great idea to do both. And the reason for that is that I'm not sure if other cities already have it, like Santa Paula or Ventura or even Piru, but with Piru expanding, Fillmore expanding, I think it'd be great to kind of offer people the opportunity to see, let's take a peek at the Sespe Creek side, let's take a peek at the north side of the town. And then I think it will allow kind of a scenario where people will come in and enjoy, spend a little extra time, and then walk or pedal back to where they originated from. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come out. And I have a couple other questions, but I'm going to email them to the email address.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one. I was there last week at the workshop in
wonderful.
Santa Paula. And how much influence do the landowners have on this? Because the reason why I'm asking is because there was a couple of people that I overheard that their concern is vandalism, trespassing, and theft. So you have a lot of farm between going into Santa Paula coming into Fillmore and then going into Piru. So that's a main concern for them, and that's why I'm asking how much influence are they gonna have, whether they could say, yes, you go, we allow you guys to use our land, or no, we won't allow you guys to use it.
So this project is focused on existing publicly owned infrastructure, meaning the right-of-way for the railroad, which VCTC owns. So we are not planning for trail segments that are on private property. We're planning for infrastructure on existing publicly owned transportation corridor. So in terms of how much influence the neighboring landowners are, they're voters, they are stakeholders who can speak to our commission, either to encourage them to support or not support the project. So our task now is to do the best we can to collect all of the concerns, do what we can to try to mitigate those concerns, work with the neighbors to try to figure out really, what are they really worried about and how can we try to solve those concerns through the design and management of the project. And so, there will be a decision made by our commission at the end of this master plan, whether, to adopt the master plan and to, certify an environmental impact report. So between now and then, we have a lot of work to do to try to address those concerns through design and programming and mitigation. But ultimately, it will be a decision by our commission. And then beyond that, it will be decisions by the County of Ventura, the City of Fillmore, to actually implement the trail segments going forward. So we know we have a lot of work to do, and we're just trying to do our best to hear from everyone, to both address concerns and also make sure that we're hearing from folks who want to support the project as well. So really just trying to do both.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and for your interest in the project.
Absolutely. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 7, public hearing. 7A, continuing our public hearing, consideration of modification number 2 to development permit 11-06 and conditional use permit 11-05 and lot merger 25-01, all for the expansion of ABC preschool and daycare facility and finding of CEQA categorical exemption.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission. I'm Brian McCarthy, and I'll be presenting this project. This is, as you mentioned, it's the ABC preschool childcare. This is a continuation from October 2022. That was continued to November, then subsequently continued to tonight. The applicant has gone through and addressed the Planning Commission's requests and recommendations and comments from the last hearing. So we'll mostly focus on that tonight, but also, include the overall background. It's been quite a while. The project is a remodel of an existing structure. It's at 808 River. This is modification 2 from an existing conditional use permit for a child care facility, so it's an expansion. It involves development permit 1106 and a conditional use permit and a lot merger. That's the location there. It's at the corner of River, Surrey, and Santa Fe to the south. The zoning is residential medium. Residential medium zoning does allow for child care facilities. However, if you have more than 7 kids, you must get a conditional use permit, and that's what they're doing. Well, it's an existing permit as well, so they have more than 7 already. This is the existing site plan. It shows the structure there, and it shows that there's a parking lot existing. It shows the 2 entrances there on River Street, and it shows the miscellaneous shade and play structures there on the east side, as well as on the south side. There's currently no entrance on the south side on Santa Fe Street. And this is making use of an old church built in the early 1970s. That's the church. This is viewed from River Street, the north elevation. We understand that that window was designed by a local artist who is historically significant, so the applicant took the Planning Commission's comments from last time and preserved that window. We'll get to that. This is a view from the south side on Santa Fe Street, looking west, and also, also looking toward the east. So you can see the large trees that are out there along the parkway, along the property. Those trees are going to remain. This is at the corner of Surrey and River, looking southwest. So you can see it's currently surrounded by a vinyl fence with vines and has existing street trees as well as on-site trees. This is the updated site plan. The project overall is to be done in 2 phases. Phase 1 is the expansion portion, so this is the new structures that will be added. This is adding over 6,300 square feet of classroom buildings, playgrounds, separate play structures, bike tracks, sandboxes, and the parking lot reconfiguration at the south entrance. Phase 2 will be the remodel of the existing facility. Once they move the kids out of the existing facility into the new one, then they can remodel the existing. The existing is north of 5,100 square foot structure, and it has it'll be adding a covered vehicle drop-off area. So that'll be a new feature added. And that's the entrance at the Santa Fe to the south. Planning Commission's comments in October relative to landscaping. It asked for artificial turf in the front to be more of a natural landscape. And it asked for the tree sizes that were 24-inch boxes to be increased to 48-inch boxes. The applicant has addressed those in the front yard. They've converted the artificial grass to natural plantings. And the tree sizes were increased to 36-inch between the 24 and the 48 for various reasons that they provided. One was the planting space along the parkways. Another one was the success rate of trees at a smaller size and cost and various other factors, and felt that a 36-inch box would be sufficient. 24 was all that was required per our code. Overall, the landscape plan is comprising 3,800 square feet. It has front and rear yard setbacks that are planted, including trees, shrubs, ground cover. There's a detention area in the southwest portion that will be used to filter surface water runoff, as well as will maintain landscaping. There's vines along the perimeter, along the vinyl fence existing, and the large perimeter trees, as I mentioned and showed in those photos, those will be remaining. The Planning Commission also had comments on the architecture. There was about 7 or 8 comments. One was to preserve the historic character, the defining features. The applicant has preserved that A-frame window on the north elevation. That's the old existing church dating back to the early 1970s. So they've decided to preserve that. They removed their sign from that structure, and that stained glass window will remain. The commission asked that the snack area be treated in a way that architecturally matches some of the proposed features, including flagstone veneer at the posts and perhaps a pitched roof. And the applicant suggested that that would not be to their benefit to do that. They would like to maintain the existing structure as it is an existing structure. They felt that adding a stone veneer would add corners to the base. So if you add a pilaster at the base of the posts, they felt that was a hazard for the kids to bang their heads in around the play area. And it also is not visible from the public vantage point, as there is a vinyl fence across the front. And there may be various other reasons. The applicant's overall response was provided to you in a separate letter in your packets. The Planning Commission asked that they balance the architecture and add a prominent feature to the east side, because you have the A-frame church feature on the west side, and the commission felt that an architectural balance on the east side would be apropos. The applicant's architect felt that the they addressed it by increasing the roof of the drop-off area, so they added a pitch to that, which would be a similar style. But overall, they felt, I can read you more of what they determined, but besides increasing the drop-off area, they felt that adding a more prominent architectural element would represent significant costs, and it would not reflect the building's use of a daycare, and the use would not benefit from a vaulted ceiling, as would a church. And they felt that the structure, being over 11,000 square feet, keeping the heights the way they are, would help to maintain the overall cohesive scale and character with the surrounding neighborhood. So that covers the architectural feature there. The commission also asked that they add more transitions between the roofs of the existing and old and the new building. The architect sought to balance functionality and continuity with the existing structure and add waterproofing without adding new creases in the roof where rain could collect. They did add a roof plan that helps to show a little bit more about how the roofs are set back a little bit. We'll go to those after this. The commission asked that lighting reflect more of a decorative character, or more Fillmore style character, or something a little more ornate. And they did address that, and they changed the wall lights and the pole mounted parking lot lights to reflect a more decorative style. And those are shown in the packet, and I'll also show those here in the slides. The commission asked that the applicant change the vinyl fence and consider an architectural mesh, as is shown at another location on site. And the applicant on this one felt that the vinyl fence was more consistent with the existing fence in terms of providing privacy and maintenance. It was more beneficial to them to keep it as vinyl. So they're requesting to keep that as is. And they also felt there was some safety reasons to not have plants planted where the kids are playing. The commission asked that the applicant identify potential solar panel accommodations. So the architect went ahead and clouded areas on the roof pitches that would show availability for solar access. So this is the existing structure at the north elevation. This is what was previously proposed, where you can see the historic character was going to go away and the sign would be above. And you can see the more hipped roof there for the drop-off area. The new project maintains the historic church, and it pitches the roof over the drop-off area, and they relocated the sign to that location. And this is a illustrative rendering of that. And to the left of the screen, you can see that's the snack area. That's currently what it looks like. It would not be visible because there is a vinyl fence in front of it. This is the south elevation, existing, and that's proposed. And what's clouded here are the decorative wall sconce lights. That's the change that they made. This is the existing east elevation. And this is the proposed east elevation. It shows the different roof pitches, and it also shows the decorative wall lights. And this is the west. And in this, you can see an image of the parking lot pole-mounted light as well. This is a sampling of the colors and materials. And in here, you can see the decorative wall light and the pole-mounted light. You can see the color and texture of the roof material, of the stone veneer material, and the stucco paint and the windows and doors. This is the roof plan which has been added, and this shows you where the solar panels could be located. And it also helps to illustrate a little bit that the new building roof is actually stepped back from the existing structure. And that's the floor plan. into the operations of the childcare facility. It would expand up to 160 students and 21 faculty and staff. It adds parking and a drive aisle and a south entrance, as we mentioned. Total parking stalls would increase from 25 to 47. And we talked about ingress and egress on the north side on River Street. And on the south side would be added a new driveway. The north driveway would be for entrance only, and vehicles would loop through as they drop off, and then they would loop straight back out to the other driveway, maintaining one flow of traffic, easier for safety. Hours of operation overall are from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but within that time frame, there are different schedules that happen in terms of kids' drop-offs and pickups. So the Planning Commission had comments on the traffic and circulation, and those comments are summarized here. The top bullet point there was to provide more detailed description of the circulation on site, show a diagram, how drop-off and circulation works, describe the estimated traffic for each peak drop-off period and pickup timeframes throughout the day, describe how drop-off and pickup works, what are pedestrian safety measures, and consider whether there are any trip reduction measures or management that the applicant may be undertaking or could undertake in the project. This is the site plan circulation. The blue arrows show how cars would enter as they drop off children. They would enter eastbound on River Street. They would loop through in 2 rows, so there's a lot of stacking distance there. And as they enter the canopy there, the kids could get out and enter the school. The cars would then proceed and make a right turn on River Street. Other pass-through parents who need to park short-term, they would have the ability to come through the driveway as shown in the green arrow and find a parking stall there, and they'd be able to then walk in. And faculty and staff are designated to come in the south entrance on Santa Fe. So this serves to break up the traffic coming and going at different driveways and different streets and things like that, so it's not as congested, as it would be if we're all using the existing driveways. The applicant also identified mitigating factors as part of their operations that help to control the traffic, safety, and circulation. Some of those factors that they highlighted include that there are multiple children per family, and so the 160 students are not necessarily 160 vehicles. It's often there's 2, 3, or maybe more if they're carpooling, kids getting out of the same car, so there's some efficiency there in terms of vehicle trips. Many of the families are within walking distance, so they don't add to the traffic. They do stagger the drop-off and pickup times. So as I mentioned, the overall time frame is broken up into different segments. You have a 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. segment, and then you have a big pickup time at 11:45 midday, so that does not conflict with your typical commuter traffic. And then you have a school-age program that's from 1 to 2 drop-off. That also does not compete with your normal commuter traffic. Midday traffic is not the same as the commuter traffic, so it should be pretty clear during those times. And then the afternoon pickup gets into a little bit more of your PM peak commuter traffic, but then then it's kind of the residual kids who are still there who have the full day of childcare. So that's a smaller representative group, and that's between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Other items that the applicant identified are staggered staff shifts, which coincide with some of these pickup and drop-off areas. But you do have staff coming at 7 to 4, 8 to 5, and 9 to 6. So those 21 staff members are not all coming and going at the same time. They have defined circulation routes as shown. You have the blue drop-off lanes, the green route, and then the purple route at the bottom. And then they will also have on-site supervision and policy compliance. And I'm just highlighting some of these things, but the applicant provided a lot more detail in their written letter to you. So that kind of goes over what the Planning Commission's comments were. And then overall in planning, we evaluated the project for its consistency with the development standards. And we focus on the municipal code. And this is the same chart that was shown last time. It substantially complies with all of the design standards as required. It's got significant setbacks. It meets parking. It's well below the height limitation of 35 feet. and it has sufficient landscaping. Some of the landscaping and parking was grandfathered in. It had been non-conforming but legalized under previous permits. And so that condition carried over to this permit as well. Also, as part of the project is a lot merger. So there are a total right now of 3 lots, 3 tax parcels. Those are all to be merged as part of the project. And this will be the finished lot size. The existing building obviously will be expanded, but that gives you an idea of what the lot size will look like. And if I could go back to the table here, the lot area will be close to 53,000 square feet once all combined. That concludes the overall project description type things. CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, is required to be reviewed for every project, and this project is considered exempt via various categorical exemptions. Class 1 as an existing facility with minor expansions under 153, Section 32, Class 32. It's an infill development. It's surrounded by urban uses. Everything is there. It's accessible. And none of the conditions exceptions to the exemptions occurred. Staff's recommendation, since it meets all of the development design standards, is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 25-1061 approving the categorical exemption from CEQA and modification 2 to the conditional use permit. Adopt Resolution 25-1062 approving modification 2 to the development permit for the construction. And adopt Resolution 25-1063, directing staff to process the lot merger to merge the 3 existing lots into 1. I'm here to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here. I don't know if the applicant wants to do a presentation or just be here to answer questions. They'll answer questions.
Perfect.
Did the applicant provide any kind of analysis prepared by a qualified historic preservation professional to determine how they can preserve and identify the historic features of the building?
They didn't hire a professional. However, we consulted with the County Cultural Resources Heritage Board on features like this, and we followed their protocol for preserving, and they said this is exactly what they would do, what they would recommend.
So did they provide details showing how they're going to put the wall behind the window and then also like any other kind of ceilings or anything like that? Because to me, it seems like, you know, if that's the main historic feature, inherently that window should have transmitted light available through, because that is part of the design intent of the window. So I'm just wondering, are there any kind of details that show how the ceiling or the wall is going to touch the window so that it can preserve the structural integrity, there's not heat buildup or moisture buildup, and that the transmitted light can still come through?
More of those details are in the construction drawings.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe, you know, that's kind of interior drywall type improvements. We'd have to look at those through the construction drawings, but relying on how the county would process something like this, they felt this was the correct protocol to preserve the windows. Even if you're covering them up from the inside, you're not touching the structural integrity of them, and the visibility of them is still appreciated from the outside. From the inside, the light coming in, you know, it's kind of more up to the owner of the property and the user of the property, whether they like the light to come in or not. You know, I don't know that we have the ability to control that, because you can have tenants or owners, you know, put shades up or put bookcases in front of windows, and we don't have the authority to dictate how they would furnish, you know, the home. If, you know, with the ceiling, I believe they will have to, instead of having the vaulted part, they will have more of a flat roof on the inside with more of your, you know, can lights, more contemporary type lighting situation. So they would not rely on the window light at all.
So it would eliminate the defining feature of the light transmitting through the
From the
window.
inside.
So that would impair its historical significance, because
I
that's a
don't-
defining feature of a window.
From the from the inside, you know, that, I don't know that that falls within the jurisdiction of whether we would regulate that, or whether that would even be considered a requirement of a historic resource study. When talking with the cultural resources staff, they would do an evaluation of it, and the recommendation would simply be to do what the applicant is proposing.
So the staff has not done an evaluation of the project as it stands?
There has been no historic resources professional brought in to do a survey and make a recommendation on maintaining, on anything like that, no.
And because of that, we don't actually know if the window's the only contributing feature, correct?
Well, that, yeah.
Okay. And then, in terms of the vinyl fencing on the east and the south sides of the project, how much of that is being demolished and how much is new? Because it's kind of confusing. It seems like on the proposed drawings, it's all new.
Let's see. Maybe the applicant could better address that question, but if I go back to the pictures, maybe able to tell from there.
I see that there is existing vinyl fencing, but it seems like it's being replaced with new vinyl fencing on the east and south, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Is it being replaced, or are you maintaining the existing?
Oh, okay, because it seems like it's a different line of fencing on the plan. Yeah, give me 1 second. So, yeah, so if you look at like, the site plan, the architectural site plan, X 1.2, I actually don't even see the fence line on the south and on the east facade around the playgrounds. Like where it says site visibility triangle, I'm assuming, you know, there's some type of fencing around those like playground areas on that east facade. And then I think if you look at the new, there's details for new vinyl fencing, and then the elevation, I think, shows that it's new as well. So let me go to the elevation on sheet, let's see, east. Yeah, 9 says ADA compliant ramp, handrail, no. 6. Fencing type, solid white vinyl fence located around, so it's new, it's proposed. On the east facade, if you look at A 2.2.
A2. Is it only for the AC equipment? Wanna speak to that?
Can I show you? The other one? The AC unit is to cover the, I'm not sure, referring to what you can see. Essentially, so it has a pressure.
Existing covered cement area, okay.
Which is the note she's looking at.
you look at sheet A2.2, elevation number 3, and keynote number 6, it says fencing type 1, 6-foot-high white solid vinyl privacy fence and gates located around the exterior perimeter of all playgrounds and parking lot areas.
Yeah, they're not proposing new around the perimeter because it's existing, but.
It doesn't,
According to the applicant, they're providing it interior
interior.
around the AC equipment.
Yeah, I see it there too, but I'm wondering about the perimeter of the lot.
Are you planning on removing the perimeter vinyl fencing and replacing it? No, they're gonna keep the existing vinyl fencing.
Okay, and then adding additional vinyl fencing.
Yeah, on the
And
inside.
on the front and back facade, and then on the interior. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, more of a comment, I wish I would have been here in October, but, as far as the landscape goes, I mean, the smaller on this project, I think the trees would be better, so 36 inches, cool, is good, because I've seen around these projects before where winds and stuff have come through and knocked stuff down, so 36, great. The traffic, that seems to be where I always focus on. Are there signs, maybe signs that they'll put up like on an A-frame where like Rio Vista uses to help parents, especially when a project starts or towards the completion and even a little after, that can go up to make sure parents are knowing where to pull in, or newer parents? Something along the lines of where it will help guide traffic flow through, more specifically like River.
They could do they would do directional signs on site. So I believe there's a condition that they'll provide an on-site circulation sign plan of some sort, on-site signage.
I've driven through this area many times, and traffic has never really seemed to be an issue. And the vehicles that I have seen pulling in, in my experience, they don't follow the the west to east flow. They'll be heading west on River and cut in, which.
And make a left.
Correct. And I'm not looking or asking for signs like anywhere out there, maybe on the sidewalk, that will allow vehicles to know, hey, please don't make a left turn here. Just to try, especially like towards the beginning, because I know there will be some confusion. And the evening, I'm not too worried about, because the traffic pattern's backwards. Everyone's coming from like Ventura and Santa Paula. It's just to kind of help the especially newer parents that are coming in get familiar with how the site property works. And these signs, not permanent, but like I said, like maybe an A-frame that just goes out like at their entrance.
They can speak to that, and it may be something they would include in their plan. Their staff will be managing the circulation, so.
Okay.
There is currently a posted sign that we ask parents not to turn left, and they're also verbally told, and actually it's the parents that brought it to our attention how unsafe it is to turn left, and that's why we ended up posting that sign there. So there is a sign there now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's clear to people that are coming in, but if there's something up there, I've never pulled into the lot, but if there's something there, perfect.
Sir,
Thank you.
could you state your name for the record, please, on the microphone, just so we have that? Thank you.
Sure. It's Gustavo Ferrer.
And you're representing the applicant?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all that I have.
Yeah. Okay, so that answered one of my questions and concerns, was people going westbound on River and making that left turn. One of the other questions I had regarding traffic is the egress out. During drop-off and everything, we see coming in on, turning right into the parking lot, going through the drop-off, and then coming out, turning right onto River Street going eastbound. And then parents coming in, that green line to park, how are they getting out? Are they leaving from the south side? Where is that egress out on?
They would go out on the south side. If,
Okay.
if the traffic is flowing, if it's a normal pickup drop-off time. Otherwise, I think they could, if there's no, if it's not a normal time where they're jammed, they could probably follow the same trail and go back out on River.
Go up underneath the drop off.
I'd imagine
and
you
then
would-
go out on River. Okay.
I would imagine you get a combination of things, but probably most would go out to the south.
Okay. And then in normal courses of business over the last couple of years, has there been any major traffic complaints from neighbors, River Street? We wouldn't have any on, Santa Fe, but is there any anticipation of neighbors complaining about the traffic?
We have not received any traffic complaints surrounding this project that I'm aware of,
Okay.
under the existing operations.
Okay. At what point would staff maybe intervene if vehicles began queuing up on River Street? How does that work if you start seeing people stopped on westbound trying to make the left into it? What's the process that, that you go through?
Well, I'm the site director. My name is Melissa, and I would be the first one to come out and help to navigate or let people know that they need to go a certain area. I think having that roundabout or the covered awning and having that exit on the other side, which isn't an exit to us right now, will really help with our traffic flow, so that, because it's an ongoing go out to the other side, they have that roundabout there that they can go back that way, which would make it so much easier to have that versus coming out either way through that one exit that we currently have now. So but I would be there, and I would be able to, me and my secretary there to help with the flow and make sure everybody understands, the flow that it needs to go. If you're parking and you're walking in, then you're gonna exit through the back. Constant communication in our newsletters. We can send text messages and emails to parents to make sure that everyone's following those, rules or regulations that we put in place.
So communication with the,
Yeah, constantly.
with the parents.
100%.
Come out
During our tours, we would make sure that everyone understands right away. We come in, we give the tour of our whole facility. We let them know the routes and the ways that they can enter our program, how they can drop off, how they can pick up, the only exit route that they're allowed to take, or, whatever regulations we need to make
Okay.
happen. Mhm.
Well, I appreciate, the applicant, going over the responses or the concerns we had and addressing all of them. My last two things are with the staff report. It looks like it might have been just a copy from the October. The staff report wasn't necessarily updated, was it?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I did find some issues on the staff report. I don't know if that translate to the resolutions. I didn't see anything specific, but under landscaping on the staff report, page 6, it did still note artificial turf is going to be used in the 3,800 square feet
Yeah.
spot. I didn't read it in the resolution, so I don't know if that's, because that's what we're going to be voting on. So I didn't know if there was any concern
Yeah.
about records on that.
The plans will be stamped with the landscaping as we described and as shown, which is
Okay.
the natural landscaping. So there may have been a remnant sentence in there
Yeah.
from October, but overall, it's current, yeah.
And then the last one with the lot merger, again, still in the staff report, we had the same parcel numbers listed for parcel A, B, and C. I didn't see a suffix number. Usually they end in a 0 or 5. But I noticed that they were all the same parcel number for all three of them. If I can borrow this real quick. Oh, that's.
Assessor parcel numbers won't be assigned right now, so for mapping purposes, it's just parcel A, B, or C, or 1, 2, and 3. Once it gets recorded, the assessor's office will assign assessor parcel number, a single assessor parcel number.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I did notice that they were listed, like 3 were listed, but, yeah, so page 4 of the staff report, assessor parcel number is 05202111095. okay, these ones have the following, I guess the one I was reading, didn't have the entirety of them, so, okay. Never mind, it looks like that one's corrected. So yeah, that's all my comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Commissioner?
ABC school vans that are, no? Okay, perfect. Then that it. Thank you.
I have a couple questions and
Okay.
comments. On the condition of approvals, start on condition approval P3 on page 14 of 17. It notes minimal size 24-inch box for the trees. I think we settled on 36, so
Yeah.
we'll just,
So the plans will override that. If they go bigger, we don't necessarily have to go back and revise the condition. But we'll have a stamped set of approved plans, and that will be what will be installed.
okay.
Yeah.
Jumping to page 6 of 17, condition E11, that note relates to the contractor shall use watering, dust fences, other methods as directed by the city engineer to control. It's kind of open-ending, you know, if it's not being directed, I know Rule 55 should govern, but I would suggest maybe changing that so it reads in a way that the applicant's contractor is responsible for all dust control measures, even if not directed by city's engineer.
Okay.
Can I ask, if you could take a stab at, I did.
I wrote it down here, let me give up.
That would be helpful, thank you.
I would revise it as the applicant's contractor shall be solely responsible for implementing and maintaining effective dust control measures, including but not limited to watering, dust, fencing, other appropriate methods throughout all construction activities. Such measures should be subject to review by the city engineer. I stole it off one of my plans I had at work, so.
And that's E11, correct?
That's E11.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Kind of down that same road, I didn't see anything noting, so this is a net import job, about 650 cubic yards, which means you're going to have about 65 trucks in dumps probably coming to your site to bring in soil to fill. I would suggest making a condition of approval for a street sweeper during these activities.
Okay. Yeah, they'll prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, referred to as a SWIP, and that will include, erosion control and sweeping and that kind of thing.
Correct, rumble plates.
So as best management practices.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so street sweeping is a best management practice that will make sure it gets put in there.
Okay.
And that can be a condition as well.
And I would relate it even to if there's any off-haul of demo, that, if this
Okay.
is happening during a rainy season or wet season, you could have track off.
Yeah, there'll be demolition and things like that.
And just so we have clarity for the condition that might be added there, it's to require street sweeping?
Yes, correct. During import activities or any, maybe we call it earth moving, any grading activities or off-haul of demo.
And is there any degree that needs to be specified or just?
Rule 55 covers street sweeping. There is a kind of
Okay.
parameter, so maybe I know it's referenced in the condition approvals already, but.
Yeah.
Okay, just like in compliance with Rule 55?
Correct,
Okay,
yeah. Because it lists a specific street sweeper to be
Okay.
used.
great, thank you.
And then I know we talked about traffic of drop-off for parents coming to facilities, but now thinking of construction activities and construction traffic, I would suggest adding a condition to not have construction vehicles parked on any of the public streets and maintaining those all on site and any staging of any materials to remain on site, on property.
Okay.
I would also recommend any construction deliveries or haul trucks should be prohibited between the peak hours of 7 to 9 and 3 to 5:30. So delivery of materials, concrete, any of these import trucks of soil to limit it to the non-peak times.
Okay.
What were those hours again, please?
I used 7 to 9, that was one of the, I think, main drop-off periods, and then pick up from 3 to 5:30, that kind of aligns with, I think, public traffic as well through that area. And then has the city staff considered limitation on truck sizes, or all trucks, or do you guys typically put that as a condition sometimes, since it is a residential and it's tight, limited in
Yeah, I mean,
size of?
we don't typically limit it, like, so it's like a double belly dump versus like a single,
Yeah, 'cause
end dump.
If you're importing, you could bring in
Yeah,
some big trucks.
they wouldn't be able to navigate it with like a six axle belly dump, but they would bring a end dump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, maybe
Yeah.
look at the size restriction. I don't know if there is any city size restrictions.
There's not any particular size restrictions for, construction trucks on any particular road.
Could we list it as under the, I think, B11, submit a construction management plan? Maybe
Yeah.
it has a bullet point there, truck sizing.
Yeah, we could certainly specify under B11 that, nothing larger than a single end dump.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least reviewed by the city, I think. I think that's all.
Okay.
To add to Cameron's dust mitigation part, when this construction begins, is there gonna be any type of banner, like on a fence, that states what's about to take place? And if so, is there a contact phone number that could be placed onto that to report this dust, or complaints or questions that would be able to go to whoever they need to be directed to?
We do require a, we do require a 24-hour contact number. We don't always require it to be posted, but we could.
Okay.
We could ask that it be posted on the exterior for any neighbors, with a 24-hour number to call.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
that would be a good idea, so
Okay.
that way they're in the loop of some concerns, or maybe it's just general questions and they don't want to come contact anyone from the city.
Yeah, they're required to submit it to us,
Okay,
and then that person is, that representative is to be present on-site at all work times and available by telephone 24 hours a day. But we could add that number be posted
even if there's like a general.
under
like
B2.
a general board that's put up that has permits and stuff to that nature, that information on there works as well.
Okay?
Can I also add that our signage now has a number. We could also include in the message, if there's anything related to the current construction, they can then add that number onto that message too.
Just as long as, if somebody has a concern and they don't see anybody, they can walk over there and it's not in a locked area. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
This, yeah, comments or questions for staff and the applicant?
No? All right, so at this point, we'll close the,
If there's public comment, anybody from
is
the
there any-
public, if they want to speak,
Public
if there's
comment?
nothing further from the
Alright.
applicant.
with that, we'll close the public hearing, and do we have a motion?
Yeah, so I just have some comments and then I can say my motion or we can talk about it, but, previously, the commission, we provided some design guidance, intended to kind of preserve the the dominant architectural element of the historic building. And I actually asked for the plans to be clouded because I struggled to kind of find any updates that were made. I mean, I did appreciate that the turf was removed in that small area at the entryway and the natural plant materials were incorporated, but I didn't really see any of too much of the architectural stuff that we talked about. And since we did determine that there is this historical resource here and that the applicant did not provide any kind of, analysis of what those historical features are, and yet the project is seeking an exemption from CEQA under Class 1 and Class 32. To me, under the categorical exemptions, Article 19 of the CEQA guidelines, you can't have an exemption if a historical resource, the project basically may cause a substantial adverse change in the significance of the historical resource. And because we don't know what the scope of the historical resource is, that, there may be substantial alterations to the historical resource's character-defining features, massing, setting, and design intent. And because there was no consideration put towards those sort of design oriented suggestions that we made, I would motion that we continue with some required revisions. And I can kind of list out some things that I think are really important. But I would say primarily having someone who's a qualified historic preservation consultant create a report and give us exactly what their recommendations would be on, first of all, what are the things that are character defining, and then how do you preserve them? Because, you could slap a wall behind the, the stained glass window at Notre Dame. Is it the same? I mean, it's not. You're meant to see light through windows, for example. But, I'm not a historian, so I can't speak to everything that's involved here. But I would just at least want to see some consideration being put forth. And, the suggestions I made last time were create a hierarchy, create a rhythm, have a setback, have some type of differentiation so that you can kind of maintain that spirit of the 1970s like organic modernism that this building is. The additions right now, to me, they actually maybe clash a little bit, and I don't think these are going to be like backflip type of like changes, but just I don't want it to downgrade the historical asset that we have. I mean, we're not a huge city. Like, we should protect the things that are historical assets here. So that's my motion. That's my suggestion, is to continue it so that they can have a chance to make some more changes, because ultimately I want to see this project get approved. I love the program. I think it's a very necessary, great, program, and I want to see them expand and be able to have more kids there, but I also want to protect our, the visual aesthetic quality and then also this historic asset.
My,
I'd like to make a public statement, since it hasn't been done.
It's been the public
closed.
hearing's been closed.
Can I make a statement as an owner? To answer a little bit of your questions?
I think at this point, we should have it's really in your discretion as the chair, how the meeting is run.
I
but
think at this time, we'll continue our discussion, and then if need be, we will,
If we end up reopening
we
the
could
public
we could
hearing.
reopen it.
Okay.
So, I appreciate it.
my only argument against that is they aren't changing really the facade of the original building. They're keeping the design aspect of the window and, that front door. Like Brian said, we don't really have any interior authority over what they do on the inside. So
We do.
where though?
I mean, again, like, if the historic asset, which we don't know because we don't have an analysis by somebody who's qualified to give that analysis, but just, you know, as me in the industry, if there's a historic window and that's the main important thing about the building, but then you're blocking the window from allowing the light to go through, I mean, it's not gonna have the same impact or effect. So, and then, how are they constructing that, like, barrier as well? Is it gonna damage the window? If this is something built in the 1970s, it's a totally different means and methods for construction. It may not be able to withstand the way that they're attaching the wall to it or the ceiling to it. So, again, we also don't know if that's the only contributing feature of the building. And that's why these people have jobs to go in and analyze. They create these like incredible reports. And you learn a lot about the history of your building as well, but, you know.
I, just out of curiosity, the county person that was consulted, is that their job? Are they like an act, or, I just wanna make sure, are they a qualified historian?
Yeah, they have a staff person that acts as this on behalf of the city, and then they have a commission that does the historic resource evaluation on behalf of the city and various other cities in the county. And when explaining the project to them, they suggested that what the applicant is proposing would be sufficient such that they wouldn't require further study. It wasn't enough of a change to the structure of the building. So the integrity of the building is remaining, and so long as that was the case, they wouldn't require further analysis.
So maybe to kind of compromise between the two, would that individual submit a report to the city to where the city could send that to, or the applicant would have to submit that to a qualified,
Or to us. I mean, I'd like to know what they found as significant aspects of the structure and how we preserve them.
I think
mean,
that could be feasible, because then that can be embedded into the final discussion of that. That's just my opinion on that, because then it may save that from going down that road to have to hire somebody to come in and generate this monster report, or we take what is being told by Ventura or the individual, I don't know who it is, and it's presented to the commission, and then from there we can review it, and then we could email our thoughts back in, and then talk about it at the next meeting. That's just, you know.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
something
that's why I
about,
think we should have a continuance, because I'm not convinced that this is an exempt project, because to me, the historical resource, it could be this alteration, it could substantially and adversely change in the significance of the resource's historical nature, which makes it not categorically exempt in the CEQA guidelines.
Can the applicant just not put a wall there and just leave it as is? If there's issues with it now, why can't they just not put a wall there? Does the wall need to go up and cover that?
I believe the architect described that they would have a kind of faux ceiling that would make the ceiling flat, and you wouldn't have the pitched feature where the window sunlight would come in. They have to apparently arrange the classroom such that you have the lights at a certain level.
So it's an architectural detailing issue.
So the inside interior design is going to be more of a construction level. I don't think she went to that detail just yet. I mean, she could try to come up with some kind of a solution, I suppose, that doesn't block the window. She definitely needed to block the door so that it didn't represent a faux exit.
I mean, I've worked on historic buildings where we put signage that just says this is not an exit. You don't have to block anything. It's locked.
Well, is there a safety issue? Was that me? Is that, you know, not blocking that door, is that a safety issue with it being a classroom, or converted to a classroom?
Or kids.
Yeah, I think
For
it's
kids.
Why would it be a safety?
Well, if they're blocking the door and, you know, the idea was to originally remove the door, but now they're gonna block it off, to not allow it to be an exit or entrance.
What if a kid can't read a sign?
But it'll be locked,
I know, but what they're running to a door, they think it's a door in an
and then
emergency.
it's locked.
And there's a fire.
Yeah, is there a fire safety with
I
doors being
I
able
definitely
to?
would not put a sign in a place where there's childcare.
If it's a locked door,
If
Well, you
there's-
have to be able, if it's an accessible door, then you have to have it be able to at least open from the inside.
Couldn't
No, you don't.
couldn't a minor construction of it not looking like a door suffice it? And then put a sign as well that says this is not an exit, as long as it doesn't look like a door, it's not something a whole room has to be redone for.
Well, what's the setback for this wall from the door?
it wasn't that clear. It looked like a 2x4 or something in front of the whole, like, window and door. But I mean, to me, guys, the window is not the only problem. I think that the fact that the rest of the building is not visually subordinate to this main historic structure, that's another problem. And we kind of gave them some guideline, or not guidelines, we gave them some suggestions on how to fix that. And then they didn't do anything to change any of it. So to me, the architectural language is like completely clashing. So that in itself also compromises the historic nature of the building. They determined last time that it was a contributing historic structure.
There's no proof.
It's not officially designated in any way.
Doesn't have to be for CEQA though, right?
It's not designated in any records as being historically significant, just given the age and the local knowledge of that there was a local artist who is thought to have designed at least the window part of it. The suggestion was, what if it is historic? What would they do to preserve it? And this seemed to be the acceptable mitigation if it was deemed historic. So even if in other words, if it were deemed historic, this approach is what would be recommended by the county cultural heritage board, as I understood from their staff. So they surrendered to the fact that what if it is historic, we'll do the mitigation.
Did the board review the project?
No, it was just out of
Okay.
staff. The staff wouldn't even, he was suggesting he wouldn't take it to that level, given the nature of what was being proposed.
So we don't know
No.
still what they would recommend since they haven't reviewed the project. Have they seen the drawings?
Only the staff person.
Okay.
This might not be helpful for the commission, but I could read the definition of what a historical resource is defined as. It's sort of a lengthy definition. For purposes, this is referring to a public resources code section in CEQA. An historical resource is a resource listed in or determined to be eligible for listing in the California Register of Historical Resources. Historical resources included in a local register of historical resources is defined in a code section, or deemed significant pursuant to criteria set forth in another code section, or presumed to be historically or culturally significant for purposes of this section, unless the preponderance of the evidence demonstrates that the resource is not historically or culturally significant. The fact that a resource is not listed in or determined to be eligible for listing in the California Register of Historical Resources, not included in a local register of historical resources, or not deemed significant pursuant to criteria set forth in a code section, shall not preclude a lead agency from determining whether the resource may be an historical resource for purposes of this section. So I've not actually researched what the specific other references are to, but it's a somewhat broad definition. I think the question here, it's sort of a discretionary thing. There's obviously other agencies that have decided, but it's sort of a planning commission discretionary decision, whether it feels like this would cause a significant adverse effect, a substantial adverse change in the significance of a historical resource or not. And that's what this CEQA determination is
So
tied to.
just for clarification, Brian, this window is or was built by an assumed somebody. There's no evidence of that, correct?
There is a local historian who believes that the window, maybe the structure, the A-frame structure, was designed by a man named Hinckley,
Okay.
who's a local artist, who's a well-renowned artist. So she suggested, there may be some historical significance because of that, but she wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if he definitely designed it or not. But the county did find an article, when I did consult with them, they found an article about Mr. Hinckley, and it seemed to indicate that he did in fact design at least that window and that A-frame structure. It was in a newspaper article. So it was enough to attribute it. There was enough information to suggest he did. And so consulting the county staff, what would you do if this is historic? And they said they would just preserve it as you're proposing.
So just so we're all on the same page, it's a lot of assumption right now. Because there's an article that suggests, but there's nothing documented that validates it.
Well, we don't have an updated cultural heritage survey, so we actually have no idea, like there's probably a lot more than what was in there, since anything basically being built around the 70s is now being considered historic as well. So we actually have no idea.
Right, so we don't know.
Well, but we have a responsibility to look into it. So that's why I'm bringing this up. If we already know that this is an artist of significance they are attributing the window and the A-frame, which A-frames are rare. I mean, the actual pitch of the roof, that's not a very common pitch. So that's why I'm saying it's not only the window, it's actually the whole building. And the configuration of all the new parts and pieces that are being added onto it, it needs to preserve the integrity of the A-frame and the window.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I understand all of that. But again, I guess we're stuck right now is that we don't know if this is validated or verified. And we don't know. So I guess what I propose or what I feel, or what I think that we should do is we should first figure out if the resources need to be discussed with, is this or is this not? If it's no, we move on. If it's yes, okay, well, what do we need to do to preserve it? So that's just my take on that. Because we want to make absolute sure, but we don't want to make the mistake of saying, you know what, we don't know, let's move on and demo everything.
If we don't add the wall, we don't make any modifications to that wall, would that be acceptable?
No, I think that the roof lines and we had recommended that there be some sort of a separation between the new part of the building and the old part, so that, you continue to keep that main structure as the primary, hero piece of the whole, I don't want to call it a compound, but, the project. That was one of my recommendations. I mean, there were other things that I found that had nothing to do with the historical significance, like, you know, the vinyl fencing. I know the architect or landscape architect said that the kids are gonna eat poisonous berries if there's landscaping, but, I mean, the vinyl, the PVC vinyl, that off-gases and is a neurotoxin when it ages in the sun. So I don't understand how that's fine. So, yeah, that's why some of these recommendations were based on the historical stuff, but some of them were like, hey, aesthetic quality of having 3 facades exposed to this neighborhood. What can we do to kind of make it more of a, you know, natural environment for kids? You know, that, there's a twofold thing for me.
I think they've, on respect to the historical significance, I think that they have done what we've asked, and that specifically he designed the A-frame and, you know, the window and that part of, you know, the building, and they're keeping to that. I don't know if I can necessarily, you know, make any or support anything to go into more depth with that, because I think they've addressed that. You know, personally, they're leaving that. Okay, yeah, they might be blocking it off, but they're not getting the benefit of the window and the natural light. It doesn't come out. You know, they don't get light coming out of it, and they're closed at night, so there'd be no lights on to show that significance. Yeah.
I would just argue, though, that like the A-frame, yes, it's being maintained, but it's being like becoming subordinate to this other huge roof that's next to it. And it's completely like, it doesn't gel, you know, like there's not a composition that makes sense to me. And yeah, it's a window, it's a piece of art. Like, you wouldn't take a stained glass window from any other church and say, yeah, it's exactly the same, but the light doesn't go through it now. Like, can you even see the design of what it is? No. So, I mean, if we're trying to preserve that, you can't have stuff blocking it. And yeah, if you look at this elevation here, the car entry port, the carport, it's not, I mean, it's like Mediterranean revival. And it just, the styles are all different here.
Is there any modifications being done to the A-frame outside? Nothing, right? It's gonna stay the same.
Yeah.
So it's just the inside that's gonna get changed.
Correct.
I just want, I feel like they've complied with what we asked them last time. And
Right. Her,
I understand what
she's
she's
talking about,
saying,
yeah, the new addition here.
But 1970s material doesn't exist in 2025.
Yeah, and that's not what I'm recommending. I just think, like, you see how this building on the left, it totally, do we have a, can we see the before elevation? Okay, so here's the building. And actually, Brian, I have like some images that I sent to you. Can I show one of them?
Sure.
Thanks. So here's the window on the inside, and then if you, can you zoom into the second picture on the bottom of the page?
This one?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is like typical 1970s, you know, they started going like with these big like geometric forms and wood, like if you go to the top picture on the inside, you can see like they have this, you know, wood ceiling and exposed beams and stuff like that. It's all about this style, you know, it kind of was taking the inspiration of like the natural materials of California and like geometric shapes with like modernism. And I just think like this is, as an architectural style, is significant. The window is significant, and the rest of the building needs to be subordinate to this volume, and it needs to be respectful of the style that it's in. I'm not saying use the same materials, but it shouldn't be like, okay, this is California, like modernism of 1970s, and then the rest of the building is gonna be Mediterranean revival with Spanish style light fixtures. Yeah, it's not about like the use. I'm talking about like making sure that this is preserved as the main point of this building.
So they would close off. Right. But not the, is the wall going all the way to the top of the A-frame? Or is it just gonna come to a certain, because you're saying it's gonna square it out, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it will only, most likely only go as high as they need the ceiling to be. So I'm guessing that's 9 feet.
And I know there's no public hearing, but since we know it's going in, there's gonna be a drop ceiling. So it's not gonna be.
With mechanical above it, I'm assuming. So you'll see mechanical equipment through the window.
No, the window's stained glass, it can't stay glass.
I don't think the comments are being, I think if we're gonna have,
We can't have any further comments, sorry. Close it.
unless we were to reopen them.
We could have, yes, I suppose we could review the construction drawings and ensure that the drop ceiling only goes as high as it needs to be, 9 feet, and then leave the top part of the windows
Can you
open.
lower, that picture you're showing, can you bring it down to the very first one? So, looking at this,
It's like 7 feet.
where's the wall gonna stop, basically? Where is it gonna come to?
That's what we would have to look at. I'm guessing it would be as high as the ceiling, which would be about 9 feet.
Probably the top of the
Maybe
door,
10.
like where that horizontal mullion
Yeah.
is, it's probably around 7 feet there. So maybe like a couple feet above that
Right.
is where the ceiling would be. But look at the A-frame also, like this vaulted ceiling, this is part of the significant part of this architecture as well. A-frames, like I said, are not like common. They're very rare.
How about asking the applicant to put like fixtures like that where they're just hanging, keep the A-frame as is, and just bring it down without putting a ceiling in there?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's standards for certain classrooms.
Also a noise thing, it echoes, and there are children that are gonna be in this classroom.
We can't have any,
No, I know.
Acoustical
I'm
treatment?
I'm asking it directly to him,
sorry.
You know, I don't know if there's specific standards for classrooms. Their architect would probably have to speak to that. Yeah, or maybe they would know.
Do you know, Brian, if the existing condition it looks like this inside is open ceiling space?
Well, I mean, the ceiling is the classroom is a little bit better.
And, sorry, Brian, can we go to the next page? I just want to show something else. So, I mean, everybody knows this, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people know this building at the top. It's the Wayfarers Chapel. This is also an example of this same type of architecture. It's the 1970s. You know, they're moving like nature inside, and they're using these geometric forms, like moving away from like the more like, you know, crucifix and stuff like that. And so, you know, what I was thinking is like if you go down a little bit more, like when I was recommending like the carport and stuff, having heavy timber construction, using more like natural materials instead of having, You know, right now, they changed it from a hip roof just to another, it looked like just the gable end. But I think having open structures like this, you could mirror that for the snack structure. It would go very well with this style. And you know, you don't have to put the river rock or whatever at the bottom. I don't know how kid hitting their head on stucco is a lot softer, but, you know, these are my recommendations. I just think that they would be more cohesive. If you went down, Brian, a little more, you know, and then the light fixtures that were recommended or proposed, they're more like a Spanish revival, Mediterranean. This is more in line with like the style. It's like a modernism, brutalism. I mean, I'm not gonna die on the hill for the light fixtures, but I just, you know, I wanted to give some examples. And then if you go down one more page, this is what I was recommending in terms of the fencing material. You know, there are studies that show that kids, you know, it reduces stress for them to be around natural materials. It also, the variation of color and texture, I mean, those things are important, like in the developmental stage, to be interacting with. You know, I'm very averse to PVC or any kind of material that like actively harms the environment. This is why I was recommending this. This is not a historical thing necessarily, although it does go with that sort of California modernism of the 1970s as well.
I'll comment on the fence. It's a fire hazard. I think kids will get splinters off of it. I don't think that, a lot of cities are starting to move away from wood and wood chips, especially like in high fire areas like we are. But the PVC, I mean, I think, or vinyl fencing, I mean, it's everywhere. It fits into Fillmore. I may not like it, I know I don't, but it blends in. I absolutely would not put up like a wood fence for different things.
Can I just give you a counter argument that redwood, ipe, and cedar, they're all naturally flame resistant, rot resistant, and insect repellent. And, you know, wood is a renewable resource. So like, let's say it gets damaged, you just replace one part of it, whereas the PVC, as it ages in the sun, it's gonna actively off-gas like VOCs, which are neurotoxins to kids, especially because that's when their brains are developing. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but these are products that you can use in high fire areas.
I'm gonna stick with,
Yeah.
I grew up outside Yosemite, fire, fire, fire. That's just what we stay away from.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes.
This building was originally a church, and it was in the county and approved in the county, ultimately annexed into the city limits. It was surrounded by orchards. The city has converted other churches. We've converted on Central Avenue, the Catholic church, and then across the street, we've converted that church just recently. When those conversions, when those buildings were changed, we kept the architectural integrity of the exterior, and one of them, even the interior, because it fit for the use. I just wanted to explain that, and we're at a site that we didn't identify as historically significant. It's not in any of our general plans as something significant. However, during this process, we had a citizen who stated, we do have a historically significant person, Hinckley, and that person is significant, design this. Because of that, it could potentially be a significant feature. But that was not ignored in the process. The applicant and city staff addressed it similar to what we have done in the past and similar to what the County Cultural Heritage Board has done, which is retain the exterior, but the interior changes. What's offered right now is a study to be done by a qualified person, and maybe the conclusion is what we've already come up with. But we need to have a qualified person to have that. Now, the applicant will have to pay for that, and that study would need to be done to convince us, and may cause changes to the floor plan. If you look at the floor plan, the entire former sanctuary area it will be changed to accommodate infants and toddlers, and it'll be modernized, which isn't too different from what we've done in the past for other churches. But what's being asked is a study to be done, and that might take a little bit of time. I was trying to think to myself, how can we condition it so that it can be done while we approve this project and that work occur? You can't do that. We're not permitted to do that because that particular study may cause changes to something that we've already approved. So you would, and that would be terrible to do to the applicant. What's really being asked are those two things. Provide a study, and then the architecture that is proposed would need to fit within the context of the existing architecture. Did I summarize that correctly? Okay, that's one commissioner's opinion. And there's been no motion made. I don't like dismissing those kinds of comments, and you guys are deliberating them properly. You're not dismissing any of it and trying to come up with some solutions. Okay, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, and I think that's where we are. And then provide, with the holidays coming up, I don't know if the next meeting is July 21st, or January 21st? If something can be done by that time. A study would need to be done in about 2 to 3 weeks. And we might draw the same conclusion from the Cultural Heritage Board, or the staff from them.
And Kevin, I think what you were explaining for the second piece of information in terms of making architectural changes, that's all assuming that the first question answered is yes, this is
Correct.
a historical resource. And if the answer to that was no, then that addresses the CEQA issue.
Right, and I'm saying that because in our general plan, in our studies, we have not identified this entire area historically significant. I mean, if we have a project in the downtown or in the northeast quadrant of the cities recognize that that whole area is significant, and we do these types of things. Because we received this comment from a citizen, Brian went the extra mile and double checked and is trying to retain the exterior.
Yeah, the staff used a term, if it's not impacting the historical, primary historical element, it didn't rise to the level of requiring a study. Because he said they do promote and want reuse of buildings so that buildings aren't sitting and languishing and falling apart over time. So they try to strike a good compromise with new developments. And they said that, additions that are going in the back or the rear are not considered significant, and something that's preserving the exterior integrity of it wouldn't, that is the mitigation effectively. So,
And
given that information to the applicant, they said, fair enough. We'll go ahead and preserve that, that main historic element of the building, keep it as is, so.
And the things that they're doing inside that
Yeah.
particular thing inside aren't removing anything to where somebody, they sell the property and somebody comes in and wants to restore it, it's easily,
It's easily-
drywall and.
Well, we
It's
don't know.
But we don't have a report that says that.
It's,
Right, we don't have a report to fall back on.
that you
Well,
can,
no. So I'm saying,
No, I know, if the building transitions to something else, whatever just got added to it can easily be removed.
right. Yeah, the architect spoke to that in that they would install beams going across that wouldn't change the structure itself. It would be kind of.
So it's gonna be
It would be kind of
floating
anchored,
away?
it would be kind of anchored in, is the way she described it. And not changing the,
I see what's being added, yeah, they'll have beams and
like
then
they
they'll
would,
be
they would
in
span.
contact with us.
Yeah, they
I
would
see what you're saying.
span, they would span straight across.
Right, and it's just a drop ceiling,
Right,
yeah.
and then do a drop ceiling.
so even if, again, even if it comes back 20 years down the line that it has historical significance, somebody can come in and remove what has been put in the interior. We haven't messed with the outside, other than, potential some issues of, being able to see the natural light. Again, we're not removing any of that in the architectural thing or, plans. It can eventually be removed if, again, in the future, somebody wants to bring it back to original.
Well, I think also the interior's already been modified currently. It doesn't, it's not open. There's a room that's been added with interior walls. So
But the
it's-
ceiling's there, right, still?
It's already, so it's open ceiling, or there is a float drop ceiling. Open ceiling.
Vaulted ceiling.
Vaulted ceiling. This ceiling attachment of drop ceilings, minimal. I don't see an impact to the existing structure by adding a drop ceiling, especially if you're putting a beam across and attaching to that and not to the existing structure itself. I'm kind of in line with Derek on if it needed to ever be removed, you're not doing any damage to the existing structure. More than that has already been made previously. So to now have the applicant invest in a study, time, I know they have a facility, they probably got a timeline that they want to get more kids in there as well.
I mean, I would
I
have
just
been
feel-
happy if they made some changes, though, I just think the fact that there was no consideration given to any of the recommendations in order to be more conforming with preserving that historic nature of the architecture, that's what led me to think like, okay, well, we actually don't even know what the extent of the historic nature of the architecture is. So,
Can I ask,
I would probably, I don't know, I'm not an architect.
can I ask out of the recommendations you were making, what were those as it relates to historic preservation?
well, I think the hierarchy of the geometry of the roof lines, I mentioned something about having a step back or a courtyard between the two buildings. Right now, right in front of the building is like a mechanical yard that's wrapped in vinyl fencing. And then the drop-off point and the snack structure, I mean, there's just not necessarily like a clear hierarchy or rhythm to the addition and with respect to the existing historic structure that we're trying to make the main point.
So a hierarchy would kind of tear down from the main A-frame, you would have a tearing down off of that, or?
Yeah, and being complementary of architectural
Smaller.
style and having a separation. I don't think the mechanical yard right in the front with the vinyl fence really plays into the architecture style here.
I think they believe, the architect believes that this sort of, configuration where it steps back and you have the prominent feature out more in the forefront. I can read maybe a little more about what she said. I wish she were here, but.
When you say
So, let me-
separation, do you mean physical separation or?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the elevation, that one roof, and all the roof lines are different pitch. There's like the hip roof over the drop-off area. It just doesn't really make that much sense, like, with the style. And then usually when you have something that's that's architecturally significant, you wanna either be very different from it, or you wanna be very complementary with it. And I feel like this is not either of those, and that's my problem with it.
You mind if I just read once again what the architect said, just so I'm not misrepresenting what the architect's argument or claim is here, or what she's trying to represent. She says, to better balance the overall composition, we increased the height of the covered drop-off area and designed it with a pitched roof, providing a more prominent architectural element that complements the taller A-frame roof on the west side. Introducing a larger or more elaborate feature would not only represent a significant cost increase for the owner, but also would not be reflective of the building's use. A daycare would not benefit from a vaulted or monumental space in the same way a church might. Additionally, considering that the building already occupies over 11,000 square feet, this approach helps maintain a cohesive scale and character with the surrounding neighborhood, which consists primarily of 1- and 2-story residential buildings. I believe the takeaway from the last meeting was a balancing of architecture, like an A-frame on one side and have a similar A-frame on the other side.
No, I
Okay.
just was thinking like the drop-off area and that other prominent piece, which is the snack roof, and then also the trash enclosure, they're all different from each other. And I was like, that's why I brought those images today, because I was like, what I'm talking about is maybe they all match. They don't have to be at the pitch or height of the A-frame. That's not what I'm saying. That's why I was saying there needs to be a hierarchy of massing so that A-frame is the main element. But there needs to be a balance. And then that secondary roof that's facing the opposite direction, the perpendicular, like facing the east side, that's a very tall roof also. But the pitches don't align. It's, yeah, to me, it's imbalanced, and it's also 3 different styles. But that's why I went down this, like, okay, well, it seems like this is a historic, something of significance, and CEQA says that if we're gonna be harming that, then I don't think it's exempt from CEQA review under those categorical exemptions.
And a study would tell us that.
I mean, I think the study would tell us what is historically significant and how to preserve it.
So we could, if we pursue somebody from the Cultural Heritage Board staff to prepare a study, and they focus only on the historical feature of the window only and forget the massing and the roof line, and come back to the conclusion that we have now, would that be sufficient?
I mean, I have my own aesthetic qualms with this, like I mentioned, like the vinyl fencing, and, I mean, I can bring up my list, but, I mean, what I'm telling you is that I looked at this and I saw that there were basically no changes, and I was disappointed by that because the changes that I was suggesting I felt were going to help preserve this historical, resource. And that's why I'm kind of thinking like, oh, maybe it needs to escalate to a report being done so that I'm not the only one who's determining like what is, significant about this and needs to be preserved.
I think what Kevin's saying too is it's not a standard practice typically in those reports that I'm aware of, that they would make recommendations on new architecture as much as it would comment on what the significance of the existing and whether the additions would significantly impact that character.
I suppose it could be, the sequel question I think would probably be two questions. It would be one, is it a historical resource, yes or no? And then if it's yes, is it a substantial, is the project as proposed a substantial adverse change, yes or no? So if the answer to either one of the questions were no, then the categorical exemption could be found. So what Commissioner Conley is saying is at this point, the resolutions as they're structured now are set up for the Planning Commission to approve the CEQA categorical exemption. Commissioner Conley is saying, I don't think we can make that finding based on the possibility that it's a historical resource and there could be a substantial adverse change. The other commissioners could disagree with that. An option is having a study done to provide some evidence. I don't personally know how these historical studies work and whether if they can analyze those specific questions. I would assume that there are people that do that, and so that would be evidence that's part of the record. If the answer to those questions is yes, the project is, then maybe there are design changes that would be made that Commissioner Conley is suggesting in order to make that CEQA finding, or there might be other commissioners that disagree and think that the CEQA finding could be made now.
Is it, can we as commissioners make that call? I'm just thinking from a legal standpoint, if we say it is exempt, and then it's found not to be later, or there's a report supplied, what's the, now I'm thinking about the repercussions back to the city.
Yeah, so so that's how the process, and I can briefly describe how that process would work. What somebody would have to first file an appeal of the if the planning commission were to adopt the resolution, somebody would have to file an appeal of the planning commission decision to the city council. The city council, let's say, if they were to make the same finding, somebody still disagreed, they would have to raise all of these comments before the city council, and then there would be a very short time window to file a lawsuit. So they have to basically go through the process of appealing the decision if somebody wanted to challenge that city. But there'd have to be a person out there that's challenging the project. And the way that these are, the CEQA finding, and for this project and for all projects, it's always built into the resolutions. So as staff, we do a CEQA review and present a recommendation. But the discussion here, it's ultimately up to the planning commission to make the decision.
Okay.
And people are entitled to appeal that decision to the city council.
We could try to set a motion. I think my position currently is we asked the applicant in the last meeting to accommodate our concerns. And I feel they made changes to make accommodations, and I do feel that maybe the opinions or the differing opinions on the architectural style is, I feel those are opinions. I'm not an architect, so I don't want to really comment too much on the different styles, because I definitely not as informed on those. But I do feel the applicant has made the attempts to satisfy what's required by the city, and they did respond to all our comments. I feel the responses are justifiable given the use of the facility. I would be in favor of adopting the resolution as is.
I would second that. I feel that they did what was asked of them the last time we met, back in October. And if it's just preserving the inside, as long as the outside stays the same, the inside could be changed. It's like almost this building. The outside stays the same, but they made a lot of modifications inside. You know, that's my opinion, but
And so to clarify, your motion is to.
Yeah, I don't think we have one yet.
No.
but
Oh,
we're
you were
still-
just
still-
suggesting
yeah,
that
he's
that's-
just
okay.
suggesting, and that, just my stance.
Okay.
currently, but-
Very, sorry.
Commissioner Todd?
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is that, I mean, I see both parts and both sides of it. I mean, I don't see anything set in stone that says this is what it is. I mean, I would like to see a report, but at the same time, I feel like if we are making an error in it, it'll get caught, or someone will bring it to the city and say, hey, this is what we feel. So I feel like, I mean, I'm not a fan of the wood fence, but, maybe I'll go home and tear down my PVC fence tonight, but, I would be in favor with moving this forward.
I'm kind of that opinion. I think, yes, there are some design aspects that, you know, just looking at the way it looks right now, you know, that new, you know, in the drawings, you know, for the eye looks a little off. But I think because of the use of the facility and what it's gonna be used for, I don't think there's any detriment to the design of it. Myself, again, I'm not an architect, but I don't think it throws anything off of the community, and I think it still goes with the other the design of the original building. So I would make a motion to approve the resolutions with some of the changes that has been recommended per number E11 rule change or addition.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think I'm gonna make the motion.
Okay.
And then, you know, adding some of the things we've talked about, changing to number E11, on
The condition approval.
the condition of approval, making sure the earth moving, is in compliance with, the Rule 55, staging and materials being, put on to the parking lot or on the facility, lots, delivery time restrictions, to non-peak times, and then the truck sizing limitations, along with the signage for complaints. Yeah, and the street cleaning, as part of it, making sure that's within the conditions as well. And I guess that would be part of, get here, I guess part of the CUP, resolution, 25-1061.
And also there was also possibly the correction, if needed, on the 36-inch tree size on P3.
Right.
And the turf.
And the turf, making sure that it was, you know, from the staff report going into, you know, the building plans, that it was removed, for the artificial turf.
So here, I'll read it for you. So I'll make a motion to adopt Planning Commission Resolution 251061, approving CEQA categorical exemption of modification number 2 to the conditional use permit 11-05 for the operations of the preschool and daycare. Do we need to do these separate, Michael?
You can do them all at once.
Okay, and adopt Planning Commission Resolution 251062, approving modification number 2 to development permit 11-06 for construction of the preschool and daycare, and adopt Planning Commission Resolution 25-1063, directing city staff to process lot merger 25-01 to merge 3 existing lots into a single parcel per the Subdivision Map Act, and with the modifications or recommendations presented tonight.
I would second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Nay.
Resolutions pass 4-1. All right, that takes us to item 8, business items. 8A, consideration of adoption of a resolution confirming the date and times of regular planning commission meetings.
It's like the same thing as last year, so I'll make a motion to approve this. Sorry, I'm sorry, you have to talk? All right, all right. Oh, I'm
I have
sorry,
a full
Jacob.
staff
I'm sorry.
report ready for you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Owen.
Oh, you're good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Staff is bringing this forward to clarify the resolution that we have on the books that was adopted back in 2005. The language, if someone were to stumble upon it without any of the context that current city staff has, it could be misinterpreted. So we believe this change would be good to clarify that it's the Wednesday, the week after city council, so that we don't have staff working on multiple staff reports for both meeting bodies. So, yeah, that concludes my report.
We're trying to avoid having a city council meeting on a Tuesday and a planning commission meeting on a Wednesday in the same week.
That's correct. Yeah, because previously, planning commissions fell on the Thursday, the same week as city council. And that was what the 2005 resolution was adopting, so, was addressing. So we want to make sure we're avoiding that with this new resolution. So, yeah, that concludes my report.
Appreciate that. Have a motion?
I will make a motion to, sorry, thought I'm talking loud enough. I will make a motion to approve exactly what Jacob said.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item 9, reports and communication. 9A, commissioner brief reports. Any commissioners have anything to report out? All right. And moving on to 9B, planning community development. Kevin?
I do. I've asked you all to look at your calendars for March 11th through the 13th to see if the League of California Cities conferences fits your schedule. I've heard from all but one. The city will fund that. And can you let me know by tomorrow if you can or cannot attend, because it gets quite popular. We missed last year because we didn't answer it soon enough. I'm available for any questions if you guys have questions of me right now. Other than that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kevin? All right, with that, we will move on. We'll adjourn this meeting till the next regular planning commission set for January 21st. That's December 17th. 21st in these chambers. Thank you.